Today, we're putting the new Renault 5 to the ultimate test. A 159-mile road trip from Newark-on-Trent to Newcastle upon Tyne. But we're not just going to test the car, we're diving deep into everything electric vehicles, from the Renault 5 itself to myths and misconceptions, infrastructure, manufacturing and much more. And who better to go on a journey with than somebody who's been living and breathing this stuff for years, Professor Colin Herron.
Hello, I'm Professor Colin Herron from Newcastle University. I've been heavily involved in electric vehicles since 2009. More importantly, I've driven an electric vehicle for the last 12 years. I'm really looking forward to this road trip, both to experience the vehicle, as I currently own a Renault Zoe, and being quizzed on the entire journey about everything EV.
Right, Colin, you ready?
I'm ready.
So Colin, just give us a bit of an introduction into your career, your background and how you sort of got involved with EVs and what led you to the position where you are now.
Ironically, 52 years ago, I started work as an apprentice toolmaker. And that job was making parts for internal combustion engines, but I didn't know the irony that I would end my career working on electric vehicles, and I started my career working on internal combustion engines. Way back in 1987, Nissan came to the northeast of England, and I speculatively put an application form in, to which I was accepted. In 1989, I did my first trip to Japan, working on a new car out there called the Primera. 2008, 2009, I was actually entertaining with a civil servant, and we got talking about Nissan's new electric car, which I didn't know anything about. That then started a 2 to 3 year period of my life where I got to know how the government functions, and I got to know how car companies function, because I became part of the negotiations to bring the Nissan Leaf and the Nissan battery plant to the UK. Once the announcements were made for the Leaf, then shortly after came the battery plant. I then created a small company within a company that focused on electric vehicle infrastructure. We then got a big agreement with Nissan to put what became known as the electric highway, which was the first motorway network of charge points across the country. This led to a big European project where I worked with Renault, BMW, Volkswagen and Nissan to put even more chargers in. Following that, I started to do my own research on EV charge point use and behaviours of people, specifically how people's behaviours were changing as EV technology changed. 4 years ago, I got the chance to take that company into Newcastle University, and then I started to work on batteries, battery development, battery skills, and working with organisations such as the Faraday Institution. So at the moment, my role is leading on battery skills and manufacturing innovation for batteries and researching infrastructure rollout. I also got a CBE from the now King.
You can't forget this. You can't forget the CBE part. So was this for your work
on EVs?
Okay.
Yeah, renewable energy and EVs.
Oh, fantastic! So you're definitely, as I said before, the man to go to in terms of EVs.
I've been around a bit. There was a journalist in Sunderland was with me when the first Leaf came off the boat on the Tyne, and he said, "Will these ever catch on?" I said, "Yes, but it also depends on policy and legislation." And the other thing which was always going to be a challenge, and it still is a challenge, is that, and one of the simple bit of mathematics I do, which is not too hard in university, is to have one EV, you need one battery. If you're not making any batteries, you don't get any EVs. So when Nissan started with the Leaf, the only battery plant in the country could make 60,000 batteries of 24 kilowatt hour size. When we went to 40 kilowatt hour size, we got less batteries because you had to put more cells into a single battery. There is no other battery plant in the country. There still is no other battery plant in the country after 10 years. There is another AESC battery plant which is going through the final stages of topping out for production, which is about 7 times the size of the original battery plant, which has been refurbished. So there was always going to be a period where there will be a supply constraint. And quite frankly, I'm amazed at the number of vehicles there are on the market, considering there still is a supply constraint with batteries. Sorry, my Nissan friends, it's actually very, very good. It's a well-known car phrase. It's much tighter than I expected. It's very much like a racing setup. It's the suspension, the handling, absolutely brilliant. Lack of rattles, completely. The build quality is really good, very impressed. Driving position, excellent. Seats, the seat is like a bucket. It is really, really good. I am very impressed with the seats. So, would I have one? Absolutely, no question. I think it's brilliant. And I can give such a simple example. Today I arrived at Newark-on-Trent train station. I walked out the front and I knew I was getting picked up in a new Renault 5. It was so obvious to see it. Among the blancmange of everything looking the same, out there was this absolutely spanking, bright green, retro Renault 5. There was absolutely no doubt what it was. It stood out a mile. It looked so different.
I did think that I was going to toot the horn to get you, but I thought if he opens his eyes and looks just a bit, he will see me. He will see me.
It was so obvious. There's no question about it. If you drive a conventional car and you get into something like this, it looks quite different. I've now been driving it for I don't know how long. And it's now
6 hours, 7 hours.
It's now becoming normal. It's quite clear. You can see what it is. The styling is great. I really like it. Some people won't like it, but I think it's really good. I think the fabrics on the interior are great. My Zoe has got cloth seats as well. I think that works brilliantly.
100% recycled as well, which is
well,
really
yeah, I said, well done, Renault. 100% recycled on the denim. You know, that's good. One of the things on the affordability is that I was talking to a person recently and she said, we've bought one. I said, really? She said, yes. We're having a new build and the new build will have solar panels. So she said, it's a no-brainer. I can fill the car off the solar panels or I'll work on a nighttime rate and it'll not cost me anything. I said, how are you managing now? She said, well, we haven't got a charger at the moment, but it's not a problem. If the general public, like the lady who does my hair, realizes the logic of having solar panels and other bits of technology all rolled into one, it just makes economic sense. If I compare this with the Nissan Leaf, and I've got to be fair to my old company Nissan, the Leaf is now obsolete. It stopped production, and I haven't been in the new Leaf. So anything I will say is based on the old Leaf.
Okay, yeah.
The old Leaf was safe. And there's actually, at the Science Museum in Newcastle, there's a complete cutaway Leaf, cut in half, so you can see the internal workings, right? That car was made, in my opinion, to look as normal as possible.
Right.
Trying to sell to the public a concept of an EV that looked wacky was not going to happen.
No.
So the styling was pretty safe. Under the bonnet looked like it was an engine. The whole thing was fairly safe. It charged very safe. There was no risk at high power or anything like that. So this vehicle now is miles ahead of the Nissan Leaf. But that's progress. And no doubt, at the end of October, I will get into the new Leaf and go, wow, wow, that's way ahead of the Leaf that I used to drive.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing because these are progressing. They're not going backwards, they're progressing. Biggest factor that's stopping people getting an EV at the moment is the nonsense that's being published in the media.
I see a lot of it.
I see a lot of it, and I know this. When I said, for 3 days now, I've gone to the local science museum and I stand beside a cutaway electric car. And it's publicised as Meet the Expert Day. And I am there to take any question at all from the public. And all the questions I get repeat the nonsense that's in specific newspapers about EVs. Quite unbelievable. The reason it'll be a game changer is at the moment all batteries have got a liquid electrolyte in them. The liquid electrolyte is basically what is flammable. So the battery itself is like a chemical reactor, it's just things happening. The solid state battery takes away the electrolyte, the liquid electrolyte, so they're said to be safer. Also by design, they're they take a lot more power dense. So in theory, where they're trying to get to is double the speed of charging, twice the power, and less volatile.
Sounds just what you want, really, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
But even if the battery makers can make them, what really matters is the price per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
So, for instance, the Renault 5, we're now looking at manufacturing costs of about £100 per kilowatt hour. If solid state batteries came in at £110 per kilowatt hour, people would live with it.
Yeah.
If they come in at £300 per kilowatt hour, they'll have to go into a vehicle where it's not price sensitive until the price comes down with volume manufacture and advanced technology. But the group I belong with, the Faraday Institution, is our big academic research body of 28 universities who are working on this type of technology now.
Okay, so the wheels are already in motion into sort of figuring that technology out.
Yeah, and there's also groups known as BSS, Beyond Solid State. So not can we do solid state and how will we deliver it? They've come to the conclusion it's done. What comes next?
Oh wow. Can you give us any insight into that? What does come next, or is it still too early days for that?
Oh, there's fantastic names: liquid, lithium, air, metal, sulfur batteries. There's all sorts of things floating about, but they've all got problems in themselves.
Yeah.
From what I've been told, basically a sulfur battery eats itself alive.
Oh wow.
But it has other benefits. So there are lots of things beyond solid state, but they're years away. I mean years away. The hydrogen car works. It just doesn't make any sense. So if we look at this car, this Renault 5, it has a 52 kilowatt hour battery. So when I plug it in, I get 52 kilowatts, right?
Yep.
It does 4 miles per kilowatt hour. I get 200 miles. Yeah?
Yep.
If I want to make 1 kilogram of hydrogen, I need 52 kilowatts of electricity.
Oh wow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you need 5 kilograms per car. So you already need a lot of electricity just to split the hydrogen atom off in the water molecule of H2O.
Yeah.
Now the way I try to explain to people to make it simple is if this Renault 5 needs 1 wind turbine a year to keep it powered, a hydrogen car needs 2.5. because of the efficiency loss. The other problem is that it takes 9 litres of water to make 1 kilogram of hydrogen.
Oh wow.
So for electrolysis to work and to get the hydrogen, for every car you need 45 litres of pure water, and for an HDV 300 litres. You also have to pressurize the hydrogen and cool it to deliver it. Consequently, there's only 2 cars on the market available. One of them, its sales are down to about 2,000 a year, which is the Toyota Mirai.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I've heard of that one, yeah.
By now, according to the UK's 2013 hydrogen strategy, there should have been 65-ish hydrogen filling stations in the country, moving way up above that by 2030. There's currently 5 and it's going down because no cars were registered last year.
Oh wow.
So as a concept it works. Will it replace battery electric cars? Absolutely not. Okay, time to upset the government again. One of the problems we have with the infrastructure is a conversation I always have with somebody. A person will say to me, there's not enough infrastructure. I say, oh really? How much should there be? Split between high power and low power. To which the person will always say, well, I don't know. To which I reply, so how do you know there's not enough? And that seems a simple question and does put people on the spot. But when you read the government strategy, the government hasn't got a clue what enough is. Seriously. And we've got the private sector, like GridServe and Ionity, Osprey, all putting high power chargers across the country. They're in motorway services, etc. You've also got over 300 councils putting their own in, which tend to be slow chargers. Now, this is the rub for me. The government awards grants, and those who write the best grants get the money to put the chargers in. The media and the government measure the performance of a local authority by how many chargers they put in per 100,000 population.
Okay.
So if you want to be a really EV friendly, pat on the back council, you put as many cheap 7 kilowatt chargers in as possible. And the place you put them, which requires no planning permission or discussion, is council car parks. Hence, there are lots of 7 kilowatt chargers and lots of council car parks which are never used. As I walked to the train station this morning, I seen lots of beers in Newcastle city centre marked EV only with no chargers there. They've been taken out. It's taken out. And the other thing is, because the government strategy does not take into account behaviours of people and how behaviours change with technology, we will never know that we've got enough. But what we do know is most of what we've got is hardly ever used. So we've got plenty of infrastructure, but not necessarily all in the right place. No problem at all. Myth number 1, an EV weighs twice what a petrol car does. Nonsense. My car is a Renault Zoe. Google Renault Zoe weight, Google Renault Clio weight, and you'll find that my old Zoe is about 17 to 18% heavier than the Clio. Yes, they are heavier. Are they heavier by 2 times? No. The second one is I won't buy a second-hand EV because within 2 years I'll have to buy a new battery. Batteries in new vehicles are guaranteed 8 to 10 years or 100,000 miles. Batteries are outlasting the cars. We know this because there is a dearth of batteries for second life use and recycling. Research has been done on the length of the batteries. Personally, I had a Nissan Leaf for 5 years. I sold it at 5 years old. There was no deterioration in the battery. Batteries do not need replaced after 2, 3, 4 or 5 years unless it's a faulty battery, which, like anything, can happen. You can get a faulty gearbox, you can have a faulty engine, which will cost you a fortune to replace as well. Next one, EVs all catch fire all of the time. No, they don't. Statistically, and you can Google this, EV fires, all the research that's been done is petrol and diesel cars catch fire more often than electric cars. The electric car is more difficult to put out, but they do not catch fire as much. The biggest miscarriage of justice was the Luton Airport fire, which was immediately an EV, and it was a diesel. I've also been told you can't charge them in the rain, you can't take them through a car wash. They're the main ones. We don't have an EV infrastructure target. There's a figure of 300,000 often mentioned, but that's not split by type, and it's said to be an expectation. It's not a target. So the UK actually at the moment has no targets for EV infrastructure. A situation I personally think is crazy, but at the moment it's being left to the private sector and councils to come up with the right figure to make it work. So we've arrived at Wetherby Services. Looking around, we have 27 high power chargers. It's 6 p.m. peak time and 17 charge points are free, so only 10 are in use. So another myth of everybody's queuing because they can't get on a charger has just been blown on this little journey so far. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the hatch. There's two connectors here. This is for AC slow charging. So when you use the high power, you simply take that out. Take the charger. That's it. That's it. So wait for the information. It's now powering up and it's net zero energy. So we put it basically on charge at 6 o'clock. Now we're going to go and have a cup of coffee, use the facilities, and let's see how long it takes to charge.
A few moments later.
Basically 25 minutes later after we have arrived, we're at 85% full, and I'm now going to stop the charge. So it's as simple as that. We just put on the payment card to stop. It's finished. Come around here, take it out, put it back, put the little cap in there. That's it. Next stop, colour coats. We came in at about 6 o'clock. We've been here 25 minutes. I think we had 26% on when we arrived. We've now got 86%, which is going to give us 195 miles. One thing to remember is when you go to a service station now in a petrol or diesel car, what you do is you park the car, you go to the toilet, you may have a coffee or do some shopping, then you fill the car. With an EV, the first thing you do is plug the car in. Then you go for a wee, then you do the others, then you come back and unplug it. For both things, you're there for the same amount of time. The only difference comes is the person who screeches into a petrol station, wants to fill it and be out like an F1 pit stop. The number of people who do that are very few, I know that because I work with one of the big motorway services that about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not many people do that. Personally, I think the direction for the EV market is to now starting to start mass production of vehicles which are affordable to the masses. I might have said previously, I think there will be a battery chemistry differentiation, and I think we will see smaller vehicles coming out. I believe Skoda already is doing one. Dacia is already doing a small vehicle. So I think we will get some much cheaper ones coming out with a slightly inferior battery chemistry, but perfect for a lot of people's usage. Technology will be used to charge quicker, faster, that sort of thing. With regards to styling, I think this Renault 5 is going to set a trend for being a bit more adventurous. Now that the concept of EV is being accepted, then people can be a bit more adventurous in what they do. The actual market itself is growing by about 26-27% per year. I can't see why that would stop, especially with the range of vehicles appearing and people starting to get over the challenges of the anti-voice. I was told once that the way EVs became very, very popular in Norway was that if 4 people went to a coffee shop and 1 person had an EV, they were then trying to convince the other 3. When it was 2 people had an EV, the conversation was slightly different. When 3 people had an EV, the 4th person gave up and got one. It's when more people have them and spread the word that it's not a problem that the market tends to change, and we're getting very close to that. I ran one of the first UK trials on vehicle to grid some 10 years ago, and it was very expensive. There was only 1 vehicle could do it. Now cars are now coming to the market which will do vehicle to grid.
So what would that entail, vehicle to grid?
If we take the future scenario, the ideal scenario is I will live in a house with it'll have solar panels. It will also have a small amount of battery storage, and I will have an electric vehicle. Built into the house will be a clever box which will be programmed, and it will make the following decisions. What is the price of electricity from the grid? Do I take it from the grid? Have I filled up my storage from my solar panels? Do I take it from the storage? My car is on the drive. It has 30 kilowatt hours of storage. Should I just take the energy from the car? Where is the cheapest energy I will get? And the house will make that decision. Then people might say, well, what happens if the battery's empty? Well, if the peak time at night is 5 o'clock for electricity, and you run the house for 2 hours off the car, then it's got the rest of the night to fill.
Yeah.
So the V2G will work when all the elements are in place, which is another thing when we talk about grid capacity.
Well, whilst we're on the topic of it, tell us more.
People say to me, what happens when 20 million houses all plug in at 6 o'clock? And I say, what would happen if 20 million houses all came off the grid at 6 o'clock? It would cause as much a problem on the grid as 20 million going on if it wasn't expected. People don't all charge at 6 o'clock at night. That's another myth. It just doesn't happen. But with V2G or V2X, we could have the scenario where at peak time, millions of houses would come off the grid. Now, interestingly, That's very lucrative to the grid and the power generators because it can offset building, for instance, nuclear power stations or more wind farms. So what you will eventually get is companies will aggregate lots of houses and sell that capacity to the power generators. What you will do is, a consumer, is you will choose your electric car and somebody will make a package for you. So you will pay monthly and it will be all included. And you will rely, or you could do it yourself on the markets, these algorithms optimizing for the nation and for you to get the best price.
Well, that sounds great. Why isn't that happening now?
One, we don't have enough vehicles that can do it. Two, until we legislate on solar panels, it's optional. But I am actually talking to quite a few people who have come off-grid, literally off-grid, by using solar panels and V2G and some battery storage. The supply chains for EV is my favourite subject at the moment. And I'm part of an initiative called Battery Britain, which was launched in the House of Lords on March the 27th. A lot of people don't know this, but we can actually produce lithium in the UK. Maybe 40,000 tonnes, not a huge amount, but we can produce it in Weardale and Cornwall. On Teesside, the processing plants for lithium hydroxide are being developed, and we produce cells and we produce all other aspects through to recycling. The problem we've had is you cannot set up a battery supply chain till you've got the volume demand to warrant the investment. So when we only had one battery plant making 50, 60,000 batteries per year, that simply was not a demand, a market to justify setting up.
Yeah.
As part of the supply chain for recycling batteries, there was almost none. So for many, many years, until a battery got to 10 or 11 years old, apart from vehicle crashes, there were no batteries. So there was never a recycling industry could be set up because the cost of building the facilities for the number of batteries that were available just didn't make sense. What we're now starting to see is, with the volumes of batteries, more people are being interested in the supply chain. But it's not just about the chemicals, it's about the metal to make the battery casings, it's adhesives, it's copper, it's wiring. There's a whole area of the supply chain being developed. So we're bringing together in the Northeast everything from the mines to the recyclers and those in between.
So Colin, as we are getting closer to our destination, kind of wrapping up this road trip, I'd just like to get a few final thoughts from yourself. So the first one, what excites you most about the EV space and the future?
Driving a car like this shows me how things have moved on. So like from the first iMiev and Nissan Leaf to something like the Renault 5. So what really is exciting me is seeing the technology, how the car feels, and the other thing is to say it's normal. It just feels like a normal car as it used to be on the motorway driving. Yeah. If you didn't know it was what would tell you this was an EV? Absolutely nothing. You've got the speed on here, miles per hour. You've got the fuel, which is 102, 10 watt, but it just looks like a petrol gauge. You know, you just would not know you were in an EV. And I think that is the most impressive change that I've seen. And what I've seen this time is that it's moved on again. So it went from my Leaf to my Zoe and it's moved on again. So being forced into another car has shown me how things have changed and the speed of charging. was way higher than what my Zoe would take. It was brilliant. I wish every EV driver knew. That's a very good question. I wish every EV driver was able to have the amount of knowledge I've got that they could address the people of some of the nonsense.
Yeah.
So every EV driver can talk about range, can talk about things like that, but they struggle with discussions like, what about mining in the Congo? What about the grid? What about the battery life? What about solid state batteries?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is, with my work in the Science Museum in Newcastle, is set up a battery corner and visit so I can explain this. So people with a good knowledge of their own EV can actually come and learn more.
Yeah.
So the one thing I wish they had is that little bit more knowledge that they could use to refute some of the nonsense they must hear on a day-to-day basis.
Right, Colin, so the last question I've got for you on this road trip is any advice you would give to somebody thinking about making the switch to an EV?
Go and have a pint with somebody who's got one. That's my advice. Go and sit, find a couple that you know who've got one, ideally 2 or 3, go out and have a pint with them and ask them what it's really like. Not listening to somebody like me, because you can say, oh, he's been brainwashed, he's been this, that and the other. Go and find somebody you know and trust and ask them what their actual experience is. That's what I would say.
So Colin, we made it. The 159-mile journey from Newark-on-Trent. How did you find it?
Absolutely no problem at all. Now the driving was a pleasure, dead easy to charge, enjoyed the whole experience.
And we hope you enjoyed it too watching. Hope we answered some of the questions you might have around EVs. Hope you learn a bit more about the Renault 5 in general and also the EV landscape. As always, remember to like, comment and subscribe for more content like this. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.